and welcome to another episode of It's in the Mind. It can be managed. And recently, I was at a networking event, and so Bill, do you know Bill? I know I've introduced you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. However, I don't know what you feel about networking. I love networking, and
Yeah,
when you go networking, I come from a place of abundance. So when I'm in a room with other coaches, it never bothered me. It never bothers me or anything like that. But sometimes I see other coaches shrug the shoulders or, oh God, there's more coaches in here. Because there's a lot of coaches,
yeah,
let's be fair. And
yeah.
I always do something, which is what I did with you, Bill, because I might be completely wrong, but I saw your eyes go, oh, another coach, right? And I might be completely wrong.
Oh no, definitely. No, listen, I'm in the same mindset as you. The position I come to is I'm out to learn. I'm out to suction up all the information, all the perspectives, everything that I can from anyone who's in any field related to me. So. You introduced yourself briefly. We only spoke for about 20 seconds,
Yes.
Andy, but I
Yes.
thought, yeah, brilliant. And then I went away and did the research. But when I was talking to you, I thought, yeah, let's see what I can steal from this
Yes.
guy. And
Yes.
if you go on my LinkedIn, you go on my Facebook professional page, you'll see that I'm quoting other people. I go and blatantly steal stuff and I credit them, And I think, it's kind of hard for the person to complain because I'll steal the stuff and then I'll give a link to their page and they're like, well, what can you do, So not at all, Cuddy. No, I'm delighted to be here as well to
Yeah.
find out a bit more about you and to spout forth about me as well. Yeah.
Well, Bill, introduce yourself. Tell everybody what you do.
Sure. So I'm Bill Mair. I'm a confidence coach. The name of my business is Business Wingman. Now, why is that? Because let's say you're going down to the bar or a club or somewhere in Methil or Kensington, and you're looking to meet someone of the appropriate gender and interests and so forth. You might take with you a wingman. Might be a boy, might be a girl, might be someone else. But the wingman's got one job. It's not about the wingman, it's about you. It's about them making you look good. So I help people look good. I help businesses look good. And we're talking specifically today, the aspects we're talking about is things like public speaking and business networking. So I teach people business networking skills. Don't discount anyone in the room. Don't say that person is also doing what I do. I'm not talking to them. Go and talk to them and see what you can steal from them. So I do confidence coaching, public speaking, and business networking. Other stuff as well, but those are the areas I specialize in. I'm quite narrowly focused.
Yeah.
Whereas you're dealing with the mind. You're dealing with a lot of stuff. I'm narrowing in one or two areas of the stuff that you deal with, and only those areas.
Yeah. So, and it's funny that you talk about that. Honestly, great introduction, Bill. And I have a toxic trait, and I will tell everybody now. I have a toxic trait, which is people pleasing. So if I misread someone's body language, I'll be like, "Let's get you on a podcast." I like the reason I do that is I genuinely am like, I share everything from me, not a problem. Take it all, not a problem at all. And I think there's it kind of feels, and I might be overgeneralizing, I might be completely wrong, but it kind of feels sometimes with so many coaches around, they're like, oh, well, and it's a mindset thing for a lot of people. And we'll talk about mindset and confidence, but I see a lot of coaches and they shrink down if there's other coaches in. And I know I'm an extremely self-aware person. I'm a big bundle of energy. I am like Tigger. I bounce in,
cool.
or a bull in a china shop. Either way,
Yeah.
I'm very much self-aware on that. So that's why I jumped in straight away. I'll get you on a podcast. Yeah, let's do it.
Brilliant. So you see what happened there was my resting bitch face got me a podcast gig. There we go. Fantastic. I didn't even have to try. I'm just naturally hostile. No, I did. See, it's a funny thing because the reason I do what I do is because you've got two types of people, right, in the world who are doing what I do. So some people say, right, I'm going to teach you to do public speaking, networking. I'm a natural extrovert. So, but they're talking to people who are introverted. And so they're coming from the kind of position of pish posh. Your fears are silly and unfounded. Don't worry about it. Just listen to me and do what I do. I don't come from that perspective. I come from that, listen, 30 years ago, how old am I now? Oh, golly, 45 years ago, I left school and went into sales. But the only reason I went into sales, like selling in a shop, selling furniture, was because I left school, no qualifications, and I zigzagged between two different types of work: working on building sites, working in shops. Why? Because I didn't have any qualifications. But selling was not my natural thing.
Yeah.
Later on, then I started working with the council. They put me in business development, which meant they kept sending me out to business networking events and to stand up and speak about stuff. Hated it, hated it, hated it. So over a period from when I was 16 when I left school, so it's 47 years ago, 47 years, I've had to learn how to feel comfortable standing up and talking in public or going and introducing myself to somebody I've never met or whatever, right? And then what happened was, here's the process. You hate doing it, you have to do it, otherwise you're going to be on the dole. So you do it anyway. Then eventually it becomes a little less horrible, a little less uncomfortable. Eventually you become quite comfortable doing it. And then you hit that magic place where you think, boy, wait a minute, I'm doing this. I thought I couldn't do this. I thought I'd feel horrible. I'm doing it, baby. Yes, look at me. I'm on top of the world. So some people might win an Olympic medal and think, fantastic. But for any person, when they confront a fear, when they do something they thought they couldn't do, that's that yes moment.
Yeah.
So that's my job. That's to say to people, right, I'm not saying your fears are stupid. I'm not saying they're on. I'm saying I've been there, I understand it, not exactly in your journey, but I felt some of the things you're feeling. So come with me, let's have a chat and let's go together and I'll tell you the tips and tricks I've learned over 47 years. 47 years. I'll try and distill that down. So that's a point of view that I come from, not from a kind of a looking down my nose and you're silly kind of point of view. Now I know, because I've had a wee look at your stuff. Cuddy, I've had a look at your website.
It. You're not stealing it, you're modeling it.
I'm modeling it. No, but I've seen you, and you taught yourself about how you had a nervous breakdown. You're a cruise director, you're doing all sorts of mad stuff and like a glamorous life, great fun, lots of excitement, lots of zoos and everything. And then bang, it got too much for you and you had to climb your way out of that horrible pit of despair.
Yeah.
So so therefore I'm thinking that we're coming from a similar kind of point of view when we're talking to our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. You really have done the research, by the way, Bill. Well done.
Skim the website and then just a little bit of bullshit, a little bit of bravado. I know everything there is to know about you, Cuddy, and then say one fact.
That's the confidence thing. Yeah, nobody the person in the room. Just know one thing about everybody in the room.
That's it.
That's a good one, by the way. That, in fact, if I'm not much mistaken, that's on the lines of Dale Carnegie, How to Influence People. Is just know one thing.
Oh, was it? I read that many years ago. I actually read that,
That's a good book. That's what all the cult leaders read.
Oh, really? How to win friends and influence people. There was also a guy going around called Kenyon or Dale, not somebody Kenyon. He was very, very similar. He wrote very similar books. Yeah. And you're a way back. I mean, you're showing your age if you've read that stuff. Otherwise, you're digging into the old age section of the library. It's way back stuff. That was stuff I was reading when I left school, which was a billion years ago.
Yeah.
And there was a whole bunch of them. Dale Carnegie, this guy Kenyon, whose name I can't remember the first name.
Yeah.
And it's all the basic stuff like don't rely on other people, rely on yourself, set your alarm clock, blah, blah, blah. Don't be a burden on people. Old-fashioned values. But yeah, this is one of the things I say to people, about networking is, see, there was an old poster, right? There was an old poster for the First World War. We might be approaching World War III, but I'm talking World War One. And it was Lord Kitchener, and it was a red, white, and blue poster. And it was a photograph of this guy pointing like this and saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." The poster spoke in that voice. And it's that idea. So you go to a networking event, find out what you can do for everyone else in the room. Go out and talk to other people, find out about other people, learn about them. Yeah, that's the idea for networking. Similar kind of idea of what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Now, talking about that, because that'll be what the topic of the conversation will be today, because this will be massive value for people.
Cool.
Is networking, if done incorrectly, is brutal, is scary, is tiresome, is exhausting, and for a lot of people, pointless.
Yes.
And I hear a lot of those stories. A lot of the coaches that I've coached, so I don't get what you don't get anything from networking. I'm like, are you making a connection? Are you thinking, oh, I've got something to help you, or are you just selling what you're doing? And that's a fine art, Bill, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And the thing is, you see, some people get sent to networking by their boss. So that used to be me. I would get sent to networking by the boss. And generally speaking, that's because the boss doesn't like networking. So they'll send someone else, and then they'll make it the other person's problem. The junior, the me, I was a junior.
Yeah.
But then, of course, because it's not them that's doing it, they'll then attach unrealistic expectation. Go to that event and come back with 3 leads or 3 sales. And you're like, that's just, I mean, what a horrible position to put someone in. So if that's the position you're in, then unfortunately the problem is your boss, your superior, needs a little bit of education. But
yes, absolutely.
If it's you, if you're going along, you've started your business, you want to go out and promote your business, you need to meet more people and expand your network, then thankfully it's a wee bit easier. So then I say to people, look, networking, it's not hunting, it's farming, okay?
Yes.
You're nurturing, you're growing connections. And that thing I said earlier, if you're going to a networking event and you're walking around thinking, well, I know a lot of stuff about whatever it is I do. Like I'm a joiner, I'm a computer engineer, I'm an IT specialist. Whatever it is you do, you know about that stuff, right? Yeah. So therefore, you've got stuff that you might be able to help people with. You might be able to give them some free advice, maybe a wee story about, the latest IT thing that's going to come or whatever. If you go to a networking event thinking, who can I help here today, right? How many people can I meet and find out what they do? If you're terrified about going to a networking event because you've had horrible experiences, here's what I say to people, right? If you envisage in your mind, imagination, you think, I've got to 100 people, never met them before, and I've got to go and promote my business. And you go to networking events and there's generally 1 or 2 people who are very extrovert, like kind of Flash and Blackadder. Hi, my name's John. I'm with ABC Company. Here's my card. 10% if you order today. Order today, right? So it's not just about being extrovert and bubbly, like being a bundle of energy, like you're talking about. I'm talking about the aggressively promoting the business, which is, whoa, back off, you're trying to sell to you. So I say to people, listen, A, you don't have to do that. B, you should not do that. But if you're in a room full of people who are aggressively promoting their business and pounding their name down your throat, and you're the only person in the room who's saying, oh, right, that's great. Oh, really? Oh, your name's John Smith. That's great. Yeah, what is it you do? Oh, computer engineering. Fantastic. Tell me about computer engineering. How do you do that? You're the only person listening to all this stuff that's coming out. The one person that everybody will remember is you. Because you're the only person bloody listening. Because everyone else is saying, I'm John. Well, I'm James. Well, I'm Sally. Well, I'm Julia. It's all cancelling each other out. And then you listen to people. And then here's the golden ticket. Then you meet another guy or another woman at the other end of the room, and they say, yeah, my name's this, that, and the other thing, and I've got a problem, I really need a computer engineer. Oh, wow, well, you've got that card from that guy you were talking to. So you take the person's card out and say, you need to speak to him over there, that guy, John, he's a computer engineer. Listen, you've made yourself 2 firm friends. Yep. Julia, the person who wants a computer engineer, John, who is a computer engineer, and boy, they'll remember you. At no point during this process have you been promoting yourself.
Yeah.
In fact, I say to people, tell you what, let's do this. Don't do this all the time. Maybe try doing it once. So you go to a networking event, spend an hour, don't tell anyone what you do. Try doing that. Like, don't refuse, like, if they ask you, but try not to, is what I'm saying. Tell me your name. Sure, you tell me your name. Try. And I've done that. People say, hi, I'm Bill. How you doing? Hi, Bill. What do you do? And I say, yeah, what do you do? And you would think people would say, oh, that's quite rude. You didn't answer my question. But they don't, because they go, oh, what I do. Then they tell you. They're quite happy to tell you. And then you get them talking. A bit like what you're doing with me right now, Cuddy.
Yes. No, I'm a big believer in listening, but I used to something, because this will be a fantastic value-packed podcast on networking, because there's so many positives about networking. It's face-to-face. The reason I like networking is it's face-to-face, and I feel like I'm speaking to someone.
Yeah.
Then, yes, I get to make a judgment about that person. Not always right. I always try really hard not to judge and things like that. But there's that face-to-face, I'm working with somebody contact, which is really, really powerful and making those connections. What I've always tried to impasse, and I'm sure you'll agree on this, is don't ever tell anybody what you do until they ask what you do. And if they never ask, don't tell them.
Hi, I'm Bill. I'm a confidence coach.
They were never going to be interested. No, they were never going to be interested in the first place.
That's right.
Unless somebody asks, I never actually tell them what I do.
Yeah. there's another, the networking event we were at was run by a guy who I know very well, a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he's a networking coach as well. He's in my field.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't care about competition. I'll turn up at his events he's running.
Yeah, of course.
He does it. Fine by me. Colin McKean, by the way, Scotland's Mr. Networking, great guy. So he's running this event along with another friend of mine, Bart Kowalczyk. Now, there's one thing that I slightly disagree with Colin on, because I pretty much agree with everything that he teaches in his networking course. He says, right, never ask people, what do you do? Never ask them that. So you say, hi, I'm Bill. Hi, I'm Cuddy. Or Cuddy, what do you do? Never ask them. Now, I agree with Colin on the philosophy behind that, the psychology, because what you want to try and do is have like a human to human connection and find out a bit about the person before you talk about business. However, it leads to very stilted conversations. So I walked around that event there and I've been to a few of Colin's. Meet people, hi, what do you? And I ask them what you do, and you see them thinking, because Colin says at every meeting, do not ask people what you do. Because my approach, my philosophy is I try to say to people, look, there are all sorts of mad rules and so forth about public speaking and about business networking that simply act as barriers in between you and your goal that you want to achieve. Let's try and get rid of as many barriers as we can, because it's an obvious, natural, normal thing to ask someone what they do. And from that, even if they've got the most boring job in the world, now shout out to all the accountants out there, but you might say, I'm an accountant. There's some, accountants are human too. Yeah, newsflash. Yeah. So even from the fact of the guy going, I'm an accountant, it's okay, cool, you're an accountant. Where do you work, right? Dunfermline, cool, yeah, lovely, beautiful place, Dunfermline Abbey. I work in Edinburgh. Boy, what can you say about Edinburgh? All sorts of stuff. They'll say something else, and then you can go on and have a human-to-human conversation. So it's not a big thing, and the only reason I say forget that rule is because we're trying to brush your rules out of the way, sweep them out of the way. Let's make everything as easy as we can, because life is difficult enough as it is, and humans meeting other humans can be very difficult if you let silly little rules get in the way. Silly rules. Now, be kind, be polite, but try to get rid of the rules. Sorry, carry on.
No. When you talk about the rules, would you veering towards the experts that tell you should do this, you should do this? I'm not going to say gurus. That's not. People like to get into that expert role so they can sell, and I understand that. But I have noticed a lot of public speaking things have been popping up recently, having the confidence to talk and all those kind of things. Which I thought it was great to get you in. Yeah. Do you find that people just like to create rules so there's a system that someone can follow? Because I agree with you, and for public speaking. So I know you did the research. I mean, I was a cruise director at Royal Caribbean for 13 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was stages every night, stages every night, talking to thousands of people. It was a fantastic job, loved it. But my one rule, if I had to put a rule in, is just go out and be me. I don't need anyone else. My flaws, my Yorkshireness, my chubbiness, my stature is me, and that's what.
Own your chubbiness, man. Own your chubbiness. Love it.
Yeah. That's kind of a hard thing to explain to someone, is because I had somebody asking me, "Oh, Cuddy, you're a really good speaker, and I want to buy into that." And I'm like, "But all you have to do is be you. Don't be Cuddy. Just talk how you talk, and find that would help people."
Yeah, well, I mean that goes back to what I was talking about, human to human, and thankfully, because fads and phases and fashions, they come and go, but I'm really happy at the moment, because a lot on Facebook and LinkedIn, what we're seeing is H2H, human to human, and I say yes, baby, that's what we want. This is the fact. Let's adopt this fashion and let's cling on to it and not let it go away. So very much, everybody's got something unique about them. I was speaking to a young woman from the East End, from London, and she was one of my clients, and she was talking. She was saying she's got a really thick Cockney accent, which I love accents, because my dad was Scottish, my mum was English, and I moved all over the place because my dad was in the Navy. I lived in Malta, lived in Derry, lived in England, lived in Scotland. And then, I love all the accents. Anyway, what's the story? Oh, yes. So this young woman, she's got this Cockney accent. And she said to me, people had told her, more than one person had told her, that she would need to lose the accent to get ahead. because it's a real Cockney accent. Sorry, that was bad. I don't know, it was Scouse. But anyway,
Yeah.
I said, oh, that's such nonsense. I said, look, that guy, what's that Pimlico plumber, that big guy? What about Alan Sugar? You're fired. All these guys, Cockneys and so forth. You've got your straight talking Yorkshire man, you've got your Jeremy Clarkson. Wherever you're from, you'll probably find someone who's an icon, who's from where you're from. Even now, here's it more interesting. I've got a bunch of Polish clients because I got one Polish client down in London, and then there's like a tight-knit business community, and I got lots of referred. So lots of Polish people were coming to me in, public speaking training and so forth. They say, yeah, we'll work on your presence, we'll work on you projecting yourself, being authentic, like you just said, Cuddy. We'll work on your confidence, all that stuff. And if you've got problems, if your English isn't all that great, we can work on your pronunciation, only if it's getting in the way of people understanding you.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Please do not try to convince people you're not Polish. Don't do that. First of all, because it'll make my heart sad. But secondly, stereotypes and cliches, sometimes they could be helpful. So let me ask you this, and your viewers or listeners, right? You're getting your bathroom done. You're getting an extension built, right? You're getting a wee conservatory built onto the back of your house. And you've heard that not far away, there's a little Polish building company round the corner. Probably, I'm guessing, there might be a Scottish company, there might be an English company, there might be Polish people. You're probably going to give those Polish people a chance to quote alongside everybody else, because there's a very fortunate stereotype about Polish construction professionals. The stereotype says
that they'll
turn up on time, they're good, and they'll give you good value for money.
Yes.
Now, it's probably not possible that every single Polish construction professional is absolutely great. Maybe they are, I'm not saying, right? But the point is, people have a good opinion of Polish people in the workplace. And then that spreads, it flows like warm butter. And then you get like Polish accountants, Polish solicitors, Polish this, Polish that, Polish the next thing. And people tend to think, well, based on my experience with Polish construction professionals, this guy who's a Polish estate agent will probably be great. He'll probably turn up on time. He'll probably do the job properly. He'll probably give good value for money. So for that big, long-winded reason, please don't hide the fact that you're Polish, right? Tell them your name. Maniukiewicz. There you go. Brilliant. Oh, that's a Polish guy. There you go. Don't hide it. Don't hide it if you're Polish. Don't hide it if you're Yorkish. Don't hide it if you're Geordie. Don't hide it. I love my accent, say. And don't hide it if you're Cockney.
You love them. You're just not good at them.
Yeah, that's right. I'm like the little boy who wants to be in the football team. He can't really play, I love the accents. I can do them, Cuddy, but I can only do one at a time, and then I try and do another. It turns out the same as the one before,
So, confidence is your thing, not just in networking, but in it's funny because actually, to touch on what you said, is somebody gave an opinion or advice, didn't they, of you might want to lose the Cockney accent to be able to move forward in it. Now, for anyone that's watching this, myself included, I'm sure you've definitely heard this as well, Bill, is when people are giving opinions based on what they think, but they're not. Should people take opinions from people that they wouldn't listen to in other areas of their life?
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting, yeah. I mean, what happens is, there's, like I spoke about fashions that come around, fashions in ideas and thoughts. There's an idea that comes around, one person says it and everyone repeats it, and then the next networking meeting you go to, everyone else is saying it, and you think, where did the basis of that even come from, Yeah. And so there's another one which is nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's a really great example of what I think is a completely pointless idea that everybody seems to say, and I'm still waiting for someone to explain it to me. Here it goes. People say, if you're in business, if your business is not growing year on year on year, every year, then your business is dying. I said, well, that sounds good. And everyone says it, and they all nod. Oh yeah. And why do they nod? Because they heard... I've heard that, so I've heard that before, and now you're saying it, therefore it must be right, because I've heard two people say it. So then I say to people, but look, let's say you require, right, I don't know, maybe you've got a couple of staff, maybe you've got little premises, you require £150,000, I don't know, £150,000 a year to operate, to pay your staff, make a small profit, and get a nice holiday in Royal Caribbean once a year, go on a cruise, right? And that's enough for you, and put a bit in the bank, 150,000 or 250,000, right? So So the next year you make 250,000 plus inflation. The year after that you make say so it's keeping track with inflation, right? So you're still making enough. You can pay your staff, you can go on holiday, you go on the cruise, you can put a bit in the bank, but you're not growing.
Yeah.
In what universe does that mean that you're dying? Now, this isn't important, it doesn't matter. It's just an example of something that everybody seems to say, and I want to call BS on it. I would say that's just nonsense. But then you think, right, okay, well, wait a minute. How did this idea come about? Who propagated, who started this little wheel rolling? Business coaches. Of course they did. So they want to say, Cuddy, how you doing? So I'm great, mate. I'm great. I mean, mate, £100,000 for the last 4 years is great. It's nice and steady. No, Cuddy, no. You're dying. You're dying. You have to give me £100,000 and I'll fix it. You know, that's what, in my opinion, that's where it came from. You know?
I was going to say probably it's come from a life coach or something like that. To be fair, I because there is a lot of things that people like to have taglines, and I always say if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And big love from Cuddy. But there's a lot of taglines that are associated, and I've heard that one before. If I'm not growing, I'm dying.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be pain in moving forward, and I get that. But with that sentence structure there as well, so I'm always talking about mind your language as well. For anybody who's listened to that and heard that once, 2, 3 times, they start creating validation towards that, and that would affect their self-worth. Oh, well, my business is not growing. What about me?
Yep.
And that really does start creating a negative mindset within people, doesn't it? And that's why I think personal development sometimes can be a little bit sucky.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. No, I like that. You know, it used to be, what you said, this might not sound completely relevant, but what you just said has inspired this thought. It used to be when I first started going to networking meetings, not quite 47 years ago, but when I got into business development, let's say 30 years ago, 35. You'd go to, like, for example, Chamber of Commerce events. Now, 5 Chamber of Commerce events now are great. I'm a member and I recommend it and I love the team there. I know the team there, they're great. But 30, 40 years ago, going to a 5 Chamber of Commerce event was an uncomfortable affair because you'd bump into quite a high percentage of snooty kind of bank manager, golf club secretary types with blazers and ties, and they wouldn't talk to you unless you were like a CEO or something. And in fact, one person actually did say that to me, that they wouldn't, years ago, decades ago. You speak to people who are CEOs and you think, what a tosser, you know.
Yeah.
But that kind of attitude, that kind of person has quite happily mostly died out. There's your dinosaur walking around who's being very self-important. So, and you speak to people at my level, away you go, you know. So that kind of thing, that kind of experience for people who, are bombarded with these ideas, like if you're not growing, you're dying, and they go along to the event and someone talks to them like that. It's this whole idea that you're never enough. You have to keep doing more. Hustle and grind.
Development is. You're absolutely right. That's what personal development is. Oh, now you're not going to live for that. Now what do you have to learn? It's
It's like bollocks, man. If you used to be frightened of doing something and now you're not frightened, or if you used to have a phobia, or if you used to have a problem and you have dealt with that problem yourself, you're like St. George slaying the dragon, okay? Right. You are a hero. You're the hero of your own story. It doesn't matter you're not the hero of my story or Cuddy's story. You're the hero of your story. You're a massive success because you just did that thing. You went and threw yourself into the water, into the ice-cold waters of methyl, because Cuddy told you to. He's like a 21st century Moses into the Red Sea with you. You did that thing. You know, wow, well done. And then other people, nippy. You need to do this, and you're not doing enough. Away you go.
There's an awful. I did another podcast with a lady, Susan, and we were talking about that. There's that constant, and marketing drives to that insecurity, doesn't it? When you see marketing, and I'm actually a wee bit. When you see behind the purpose of marketing that makes sales, it's driving into someone's fear. Fear sells.
Yeah.
And it is, the more you open up the curtain, I suppose, it can genuinely decrease people's confidence to be able to, because comparison will always pop up for people. It still very rarely does, but it still pops up with me sometimes. But I always say to, like I did a video on this earlier, I always say that's a me problem, not a them problem. That's me, that I've got to keep that in check. All right. If I'm getting triggered by comparison, that's a me thing, not a them thing. But for you to help your client, and I think one of the most powerful things, I'm really glad that you talked about that with the life coaching. Well, you've done this now. Now you need to do this. Now you need to do this. I mean, there is so many pockets of insecurity that people sell to within.
Yeah. Pockets
that,
of insecurity.
it
Yeah.
is. And then when you get someone like Bill come along and go, actually, you don't really need to worry about it. There's no rules. Just let's find out how you can be you and let's start making you some money.
Yeah.
That's when we start lighting people up. It's a beautiful job,
Yes.
Bill. Yes, when you see the lights go on. So, Bill, I think we've touched on a great subject, and I'm going to call this podcast "How to Become the Hero of Your Own Story." How
Hey.
I did. I told you I'd get the title of the podcast in it.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
What's the 5, not rules, because we don't like rules.
No, don't need rules.
The 5 ways people can generate more confidence for their next networking, especially when there's characters around and people who have that skill to be able to muster those kind of changes and emotional changes in people and things like that. For the person that's wanting to find their voice, they're wanting to find their niche and their ability to be able to speak in that area. What does Bill Mair, the business wingman, do? What's the 5 things?
5 things. I don't know if I've got 5.
You will have, Bill. You've been doing it for 47 years.
Yeah, but here the thing is, apparently, right? It's all about 3s. This is, funnily enough, the rule of 3s. The rule. We're going away with the rules, but the rule of 3s. Father, Son, Holy Ghost, I came, I saw, I conquered. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Reduce, reuse, recycle. As humans, we like things in 3s, and there's a theory that
the brain works in 3s.
Yeah, like, that's as much as our puny little brains, or my puny little brain, let's say, can take it. But let's see, right. So the first thing, public speaking, and these are not rules, these are hacks or tricks, right? These are tricks. We're going to trick the system. Right, so the first thing, we're looking forward to a networking event. Well, we're not looking forward. We've got a networking event in 2 weeks, and we're not looking forward to it because it's horrible, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to use a bit of biofeedback. Now, this is stolen shamelessly from a brilliant American psychologist called Amy Cuddy. Amy Cuddy spoke about the power pose. You'll know all about this. There you go, Wonder Woman. See this man.
I read the book. Why did I read the book, Bill?
Yeah. But I tell you what, she's great. Yeah, Amy Cuddy. So, in 2010, Amy Cuddy and 2 other psychologists wrote an academic paper, a dissertation, a thesis, submitted it. Nobody read it because why would you? In 2012, she did a TED Talk. Now, Amy Cuddy, I want to tell you, there's a reason why I'm going to tell you this. She is a petite, very slim, very feminine looking woman. Why is that relevant? Because she's not a big physical presence on stage. You talk about your tubbiness. She hasn't got your tubbiness, Cuddy. She's little. And she comes out and she stands on stage like Wonder Woman. Older people will remember Wonder Woman. Your legs wide apart, her arms at her arms at her hips like this, way like this. And she talks about the power pose. And she says, listen, they did all sorts of experiments with this. What they did was they wired people up, took blood samples from them and all sorts. Told them to stand as if they were frightened, make yourself very small, maybe you shake a little bit, like act as if you're frightened, or you're very timid, or look at me, I'm powerless and everything. And took blood samples. And then stand like this, and stand in the power pose, her power pose. And they took blood samples. And what they found was the way that you stand, this is not New Age hocus pocus, the way that you stand actually influences the hormones in your blood. And she said, you will get a decrease in cortisol, that's a stress hormone. Mm-hmm. You'll get an increase in testosterone, which is the bravery thing. And you'll have increased feelings of power and tolerance for risk. Now, if you're frightened of something, the one thing that you want is a little bit of increased feelings of power and tolerance for risk. Yes, baby, let me out the danger. Let me kill that dragon. She says, right. So then she shows a power pose, and there's a whole load of science and psychology behind it, but also like biology. You can actually physically measure. So I say to people, when you're at a networking event, I do not recommend that you walk around like Wonder Woman because you might look silly. But when you're thinking about your networking event, when you're preparing for your networking event, anytime it crosses your mind and you're on your own, do your power pose, get your legs wide apart, stand up, put your hips up, stand up straight, head up, chest out, right? And I have an affirmation for people. So say an affirmation, which is just like a positive thing.
Absolutely.
Because you want to link this event that you're thinking about that's coming up in the future with this feeling of power and tolerance for risk. Okay, I used to say to people, let's say, the world belongs to me. The world belongs to me. And then people felt that was a bit far-fetched. I say, okay, here's what you do, right? What are you good at? What do you like doing? And people might say, well, I think I'm quite good at fly fishing. I'm quite good at tying the ties. And what I really enjoy is fishing. That's okay. So you're quite good at fly fishing. Yeah. You're good at it? Yeah. Tell me you're good at it. I'm good at it. You're very good at it. I'm very good at it. You're great at it. You rock. You're great at it. Yes, the world belongs to you. So we've got up a ladder. From going from nothing to the world belongs to me, that's too much of a leap, Bill. Okay. Take it step by step. I understand that. Take it step by step. And all the time you're doing the purples. And let's look up. Let's look up when we're doing the purples. Let's smile. And let's say, the world belongs to me. And then I evolved it to a Rambo stance, like Rambo at the top of the steps in Philadelphia. Arms out wide, head up, smile, say it.
Hey, not Rambo, Rocky.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. But he was also Rambo, wasn't he?
Hey, what?
Rocky Balboa. It's the same letters. Rocky Balboa, I'm sorry. Rocky bum ba bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. Yeah, baby. Oh, Rocky Balboa. Yeah. So now the next thing. You're not looking forward to this event. Okay, so it comes round. It's Wednesday the 23rd. Oh, I've got to go to this event. It goes from 7 till 9. I know what I'll do. I'll turn up at 7:30. I'll go away at 8:30. So I'll turn up half an hour early, late, and I'll go away half an hour early, and that'll minimise it. I say to people, look, listen, no, that's not the hack. I'll tell you the hack, right? The hack is, it starts at 7:30, turn up at 7:15, right? ABE, always be early. Why do you want to do that? Here's why. Concrete, sensible reasons, okay? The person running the event, they might be a wee bit anxious, if you've ever held a party or something, you think, I hope people turn up. What if nobody turns up? The anxiety goes through your head. Well, bingo, baby, here's you 15 minutes early, right? So immediately, there's the first guest. It's you. So you're like the guest of honor. There's nobody else for the host to talk to, so they'll talk to you. Okay, bingo. Then the next person comes in, so what's the host going to do? They're going to introduce you. They're doing your work for you, right? On the contrary, and then it's easier because then you meet a few people. On the contrary, if you turn up half an hour late, everyone's already into groups and clumps and everything. You walk into a crowded room, it can be a little bit more difficult to then go and introduce yourself to people who are already formed into groups and clumps, right? So always be early, make it easy. Here's the next thing, how we're up to 3 now. Be kind to yourself, set yourself a target. You do not, regardless of what your idiot manager says, you do not need to speak to everybody in the room. You should not speak to everybody in the room because it's too difficult, okay, unless there's only 2 people in the room. You don't need to speak to everyone in the room, right? Set yourself a target and be kind. 3 people, okay? 3 people. Get 3 business cards. So keep it simple, right? After you've spoken to 3 people, if you want, go home. If you're getting into the groove and you like it, cool, hang around. But you said 3, right? So 3. After 3, do what you want, okay? When you're speaking to people, like I said earlier, you do not need to sell. You do not need to impress people. You will impress people simply by asking them questions. Get them talking. Draw it out. Just do what Cuddy's doing to me right now. Get them blabbering about themselves. I like blabbering about myself. If I had the skills, I could get Cuddy blabbering about himself. People like to talk about themselves because people are very important, right? I'm important, he's important, she's important, right? Get them talking about themselves, so that's easy. You may find, hopefully, okay, you get these little golden nuggets where you find you've got something in common with that person, right? You're both from Methil. Your dad was in the Navy, my dad was in the Navy. You hate football, I hate football, right? Whatever. Your wife likes Strictly Come Dancing. You find something you've got in common. Take your pen, right? Take a pen with you or a pencil or something, or if nowadays you maybe use your phone. But make a note, that person you met. Cuddy, right? Cuddy, he likes cold water, and I like cold water. Let's write that down. Okay, so then that's it. You've seen your 3 people, you've listened to 3 people, you've tried to get as much information as you can off them. Think of yourself as an MI6 intelligence officer, CIA spy, right? A spy will tell you nothing, but will ask you everything, or whatever they tell you will be facile, it'll be superficial. Get them talking, and then make your escape, okay? And then the next day, you want to then get in touch with those people and say, look, it was really great to meet you. Thanks very much for taking 5 minutes to talk to me. It'd be great if we can keep in touch. And then maybe if there was something that you had in common, like a wee personal thing about, great to hear you hate football too. You sincerely love Bill, whatever, right? Made a connection. Offer to make a connection on LinkedIn, make a connection on Facebook, whatever. Keep in touch. And then as the weeks and months go by, perhaps you might just follow their feed and you might comment on stuff and so forth, okay? At no point in any of this whole process are you trying to sell anything, okay? So then, hopefully, the way that I've described that, it sounds very easy, very doable. And some idiot managers, because I've had idiot managers, some idiot managers might say to their employees, that's cheating, you're not doing it right. Trust me, that's the way to go. Now, I mentioned these two guys, Colin McKean and Bart Kowalczyk, who run this networking thingy in Edinburgh. The great events. And this Bart Kowalczyk guy, he's the epitome, he's the essence of what I'm talking about. In fact, I think I learned a lot of what I'm saying to you now, I learned from watching Bart. He runs events in London, runs events up here in Scotland and various places. And he runs events over in Poland now.
Bart who? Bart?
Bart Kowalczyk. Bartek Kowalczyk. You know Bart, he's the other guy, there's Colin and Bart, who run Edinburgh Connections.
Bart does the HubSpot, he does the coffee.
The HubSpot, yeah, that's the guy.
He's a great guy.
He's fantastic. Right, that's
him.
the guy I'm talking about. You speak to Bart, right, and he's like, or if you watch him at an event, you know, he's doing what I'm saying. He's practicing what I'm preaching, because my weakness is I'll talk about myself, right? I'll talk about myself. And I try not to, but then I'll end up doing it. Bart wants to know about you, and he wants to know about him, and he wants to know about her.
Yes.
And he's really interested. He's not bullshitting. He's a great guy. Now, I've known Bart for 10 years or something like that, right? And I've learned a lot of what I'm saying from that guy, Bart. Yeah, he's good. He's the guy to just follow him around and see what he does.
I've had some great conversations with him.
And every time you see him, he's so delighted to see you, you know? And the thing is, right, here's what happens. This is like weird black magic voodoo stuff, right? Because he's delighted to see you, and he's delighted to see me, and he's delighted to see the person behind me, but at no point does it feel artificial or false, like he's just being nice to everyone. Because then you think, yeah, well, you're nice to everyone. No, you feel like, I've got a connection with this guy. Now, I've known this guy, like I say, for like 10 years, 15 years, I don't know how long. I've known him for a long, long time. And I just think he's wonderful. But I think he makes everybody feel like that.
So one of those core things that people really understand to be able to generate that confidence is people remember how you made them feel.
Yes. Maya Angelou. Yes.
Yes. They will remember how you made them feel. And Bart, he's got a coffee morning on tomorrow, but I can't make the coffee in Edinburgh.
Coffee Connections, yeah.
Coffee Connections, that's right. I can't make it tomorrow. Right. So that's fantastic. So those three tips, and you did that, by the way, because you followed up with me the day after.
That's right.
You absolutely did. You look into my DMs, and I said, yeah, let's get on a podcast. We talked about doing a podcast. I like doing the podcast because I get to find out more about that person. So this is me, for anyone that's not listened to a podcast, but this is me networking. Right now, what me and Bill are doing, we are genuinely, this is a key part of when somebody says, do you want to come and do a podcast? Always say yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Always say yes, because it is free. It's free conversations, and you're building a rapport with persons.
So and you're always going to learn. You're always going to learn. Last week, I came to Edinburgh, I came to Leith, and I sat down and had a chat with a man called Mike Stevenson.
Right.
Mike Stevenson, by the way, is another guy you want to get on your podcast. I suggest, I'm telling you what to do, but I suggest you want this guy on your podcast. I will give you his details. Yeah. Mike Stevenson is an inspirational speaker. He also teaches people how to speak. He also does what I do. He's even older than I am, but this guy has, because he's slightly older than I am, this guy's had a hell of a life. He's had a hell of a life. He tells stories like you wouldn't believe, and they're compelling stories. His mother was Lebanese. He was in Beirut the day after the bombing stopped. The last time there was bombing and stuff going off in Beirut, and he talks about walking around Beirut. He's got a fantastic story, and he's talking about it walking around in Beirut, and on top of a pile of rubble was a man with those racks that you get like that selling clothes. And Mike said, well, let's go and speak to him. I said, that's amazing. What an entrepreneur you are. You know, all in the midst of all this rubble selling clothes. This man said to Mike, he said, this was my shop. He points to the rubble beneath his feet. He said, this was my shop. Mike says, wow, and here you are the next day, you're still selling clothes. And this man looked at Mike, he said, I'm going to do the accent, because Mike does the accent. Yeah. I do not to sell clothes. I do not to sell clothes. I sell a style. I sell confidence. Yeah. I can sell a style of confidence with the shop, with no shop. That does not matter. What a story. When Mike tells it, it's much better. So I sat and just listened to Mike told me story after story after story. We had lunch and Leith just didn't tell the stories. Every now and again, I chuck on our stories and just keep them going. But my goodness, yeah. And in terms of networking, just sit and listen to this guy telling stories. I'm thinking, this is fantastic. But also, all these stories, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to steal one or two of those stories, Mike, and they're going to come out on my page. You'll be credited, mate, but you will see them. I'm going to recycle them. So you invite someone on your podcast, you do your network, you listen, and then you say, well, what can I steal? And then credit to them. Let's go for it.
So let's, and I know we're getting, we've been on plenty of time, but I think we both can have a conversation of, I think people underestimate the power of being able to listen.
Yeah.
And not being able to listen to the right things. And that's something I'm always passionate about when I'm coaching coaches or I'm telling people, look, if you listen more, you'll learn more. And I know it'll be something that I read a long time ago, but the person who is speaking is not learning.
Mm-hmm.
If there's and I've always said that if everybody says, oh, could you've gone really quiet, it's because I'm learning. Because I'm normally the loud one. I know I am. I'm fully self-aware. But when I go quiet, that's when I become the sponge and I take in everything I need to be. And people come over, could you all right? You've gone really quiet. I'm like, I'm learning. If I'm talking, I'm not listening.
You know, I find often when I'm talking, I go into like stream of consciousness, you know. I start talking with someone, and as I'm talking, the cogs fall into place and I start realizing stuff. And then it can be very confusing to the poor person that's listening to me because I'm talking about one thing and then I'm beginning to understand it as I'm saying it.
Yeah.
I thought I knew what I was saying, then I was, oh, wait a minute, I can't give a good example of it. But sometimes when I'm talking, I'm learning, you know. It's like that shower thing, you know, you get these great ideas in the shower. So when you're not actually thinking about the problem, then that's when the solution comes to you. Sometimes I'm talking about the problem, I say, right, I've got it all sorted out, this is what we're doing, yada, yada, yada. And then I realise, oh, actually, wait a minute. So sometimes when I'm talking, I'm learning, just to give the opposite perspective on that.
The opposite. For your future clients or for anyone who's listening to this and they go, do you know why I'm really quiet? That's in itself can be a superpower. Don't ever underestimate the power of silence.
Yes, absolutely. Do you know? Politically, this guy was like a bit of a time bomb, but he was a great speaker. Winston Churchill. Now, some people love him, some people hate him, but politically. But his speech, the famous speech, we will fight them on the beaches. We will fight them. Someone else can't remember. We will never surrender. Now, when he spoke, there was all these very gravitas, man. Like, whoa, this is like, sounds like a president, a prime minister, a big important person. Listen to that guy talking. Apparently, people say, the reason that he spoke with that, the reason he was so powerful was because he had a stutter, a stammer. And he was compensating. We will fight them. And then he would just wait for his voice to come back. But the effect was all those silences. I'll tell you, Cuddy. And then that silence. I've had teachers, right, in my workshops for public speaking. And teachers say, like secondary school teachers, and they're quite happy teaching a bunch of kids. But then take them out that environment, put them in a strange environment and ask them to speak, and the same nerves can happen to them as happened to you or me. But they'll say to me, there's a trick in experienced teachers, how you tell an experienced teacher from a newbie. So experienced teacher is talking history, geography, something, and a couple of kids at the back are messing around. Whole class is quiet, a couple of kids at the back. A newbie teacher will raise their voice and shout at them and threaten them with detention or something, or time out or whatever happens nowadays. But the experienced teacher does nothing. The experienced teacher just stops talking. And after a few seconds, the kids at the back realise, wait a minute, the only people making noise here is us. And then they're embarrassed, and then they're ashamed, and then they shut up. And the experienced teacher doesn't make any reference. They just keep talking. They just continue talking. They just pick up where they left off. And those kids will probably never make a noise in that class again. Why? Because of the power of silence.
I remember one of my senior cruise directors that I learned from, and he was an older guy, and I loved working with him. He was such a knowledgeable guy. That's when I was going through my learning management stuff. So like the 1 Minute Manager, I was reading those books, and a phenomenal book that I read, and then I started listening to my cruise director. I was the activities manager at the time. It was Paul Rutter. I'll have to mention that he's on this. And Paul used to say, if you want people to listen, whisper. You want people to listen, talk quietly. And I can tell you now, when I'm on a bus or I'm out traveling or anything like that, or my wife's out or I'm out with friends, I never start listening until somebody starts whispering. The second someone starts whispering, I'm like, what?
That must be
That's the
important.
curiosity of it, but
Or juicy anyway, yeah.
don't underestimate the power of lowering your voice. You don't have to be the loudest voice. The quietest voice gets the attention sometimes. Again, one of those bullshit rules that people have created: the loudest cock, the squeakiest cock gets the oil.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the silence is gold, and if you whisper, people will start listening. And I used to watch him do a game show, and when the audience was getting too loud, he would start bringing his voice down, and the audience would just go quiet. But they'd start leaning in. The second they all leaned in, he started talking again at the pace he wanted to. He's
Yeah.
so clever. So silence is a power. It's a technique.
Yeah. Love it.
Fantastic.
Good
Bill,
stuff, man.
I think we've touched a lot of topics there. Is there anything else you would like to share? How can we find you, Bill? Where are you based? How can we get in contact with you?
So I'm based here in Fife, along the road from you, Cuddy. I'm in Kirkcuddy.
Are you?
I'm in Kirkcuddy. You're in Methil, I understand. So, because we met in Edinburgh, you see, that's why.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the power of doing all the background searching and looking you up on your socials and so forth. So I'm along the road in Kirkcuddy, and I'm businesswingman.co.uk is my website. Yep. But you should be able to find me on LinkedIn, where I'm Bill Mair, MA-ons, because I am the first person in my family to ever go to university. I was a mature student, and I went to St Andrews University, and a wee story before we sign off here. So I went to University of St Andrews in, 1990. St Andrews had a wee programme. They were given money by the government to diversify and bring in, because it had all the very privileged elite kids who couldn't get into Cambridge or Oxford, went to St Andrews instead. And the government said, look, we want you to have more oiks like me, working class oiks. So I was at university. And so I went to university, and then one conversation, I got on great with all these hyper-privileged, hyper-rich kids. I thought it was hilarious. I was to take the piss out of them the whole time. And it was all done in jest, and I loved my whole time there. And more than once, I was approached by a very young, very rich St Andrews student. I say, Billy, I say, is it true? Is it true? I say, what is it, Torko? Do you really live in a council house?
Prince Charles. Yeah. Prince Charles.
Prince Charles was there. In fact, that's where what's her name met the other one, Harry and Meghan.
I thought you were doing a royal family voice. I'm like,
it was. Well, listen, these guys. I'm not. These people.
Yes.
It is like being at university with the royal family. Anyway, I'm very, very proud of my degree. So it goes on my Bill Mair MA-ons. It goes there. I'm like, listen, mate, that was a hard slog for me. 2 years at college, 5 years at university, only one in my family. Come from a council estate, went to St Andrews, very proud of it. That's why it's there. So, that's what a great achievement in my life as far as I'm concerned.
Well done. Pat on the back as well there, Bill.
There you go. Bill Mair, MA-ons. Find me on LinkedIn, guys.
Love it. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for dropping by for this podcast.
That's been fantastic fun. Thank you.
Right. Always a lot of fun. As always, more podcasts coming up. If it's in the mind, it can be managed. And I always sign off with this. As always, big love from Cuddy. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much, Bill.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Cuddy.